Talk about low-budget flights, no food or movies? I'm out of here. I like running better. Welcome back, YouTube viewers, to another video. Alright, so today's video is something I've been wanting to make for a long time, and that is a definitive ranking of every arc in Dragon Ball. I've covered Dragon Ball a couple times. I've mostly made references to it and made videos on it, because, like I said, I've only made a few videos on it, but I love Dragon Ball. It is definitely one of the greatest stories ever told, in my opinion. Kira Toriyama, may he rest in peace, easily one of my favorite storytellers. Just great stuff. But I know that making a video ranking every Dragon Ball saga would take a while. I was gonna do this earlier, but I was currently rereading Dragon Ball actually, so I decided to finish that reread before I make this list. Also, when I say every arc in Dragon Ball, I'm just talking about Classic, Z, and Super. I'm not going to cover Dragon Ball GT or Daima or whatever. I've never even watched them. And also, just a quick side note, I'm talking manga. I have seen about the first 40 episodes of the original Dragon Ball anime, but that's it. I've read it multiple times, though. As for Z, I've watched Kai twice, or probably 3 times, but I'm mostly talking the manga. I've read the manga numerous times. As for Dragon Ball Super, I have mostly read the manga. I have seen some of the anime. I've seen all the Tournament of Power, some of the other parts, but I've mostly just read Dragon Ball Super. And from most people agree that the manga was better anyway. So like I'll cover the movie versions to like Resurrection F, Battle of Gods. I'm going to talk about the movie versions. When it comes to superhero, though, I have not seen the movie. I've just read the manga version. So just let you know. Okay. Before we continue, I'd like to ask you all to check out my letterbox, link in the description. Maybe watch some of my other videos if you like this one. Without further ado, let's do it to it. And here's my ranking of every saga in Dragon Ball. My least favorite saga is Resurrection F. Boy, who saw that coming? People don't like Resurrection F. And I've got to agree that it's probably the worst saga of Dragon Ball. But here's the thing. Even though I have this ranked at the bottom, it doesn't annoy me as much as one other arc does. Also, it's interesting just how many versions of this there are. I mean, I recently learned that Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, the video game, had a whole DLC campaign adapting this movie, and they actually made it a bit better. But ultimately, I'm talking about the movie. I have seen the anime version, though. But even just the movie, which is still technically the best version of it, I guess you could say the video game version is better. I agree, but the movie still isn't very good. I didn't hate it exactly when I watched it. It's more like thinking about it later, because the more I think about the movie, the worse it gets. Also, even when I did watch it, there was just something about it that didn't feel like a real movie to me. It felt more like an extended TV special or something. Let me talk about what I do like about Resurrection F, though. For one, it reintroduced Frieza. And Frieza is one of the greatest villains of all time. Definitely best Dragon Ball villain. And he was pretty well characterized here. I watch English dubs, so, Chris Ayers, may he rest in peace. Fantastic voice for Frieza. I think him getting a new golden form is cool. I'm sure it was good for merchandising and marketability, but it does look cool and helps him get up to par with the other characters. I think the idea of Frieza just deciding, hey, maybe I should train is some good character development too without changing his evil ways or whatever. And it does reintroduce him back into the series, because I don't think he would have been in the Tournament of Power if he weren't here. Then again, Master Roshi got to be in the Tournament of Power, so who even knows? It introduces Jacko into Dragon Ball, from Jacko the Galactic Patrolman, one of Toriyama's other mangas, which I have not read. I think that's cool. It introduces Super Saiyan Blue, which is kind of cool. I think Super Saiyan God is a lot better. And the subject of that, let's get into all the stuff I don't like. For one, Super Saiyan Blue just has no fanfare. It just kind of happens. I'm not necessarily opposed to it being introduced this early on, but I'm thinking that maybe you should have had Goku fight in Super Saiyan God and then have Vegeta unveil Super Saiyan Blue. I don't know, just give the God form more time. Now, if you read the Super manga like me, then you do get to see it more often. Ha ha ha. But also, the fights, the action scenes are pretty good, but they're just... Goku getting almost killed by a regular laser blast. Not something from Frieza, but just like a ring this little laser gun ring on one of Frieza's men, that almost killing Goku and knocking him out of his Super Saiyan Blue form, is just one of the stupidest things in all of Dragon Ball. I mean, how do you expect anyone to buy into that? People always talk about how Dragon Ball Super has bad power scaling. You know what? Maybe it does. But that is by far worse than anything else in Dragon Ball Super. Vegeta beating up Frieza is cool, and then he doesn't get to finish him. I hope he gets to beat Black Frieza if we ever get that story. Maybe you could have had Goku and Vegeta defeat Frieza together. But even if you still did to have it just be Goku beats Frieza himself, it doesn't feel satisfying. I mean, Goku and Vegeta throughout this movie are scolded for being too overconfident and for taking too long. Since when has Goku ever been overconfident? Usually when Goku is confident, not only is he still cautious, he just gets tripped up by something he wasn't expecting, but he also usually has what it takes to back him up. As for Vegeta, he's criticized for not killing Frieza when he had the chance, but he only beat him up as much as he needed to. He was just charging his blast and was going to take the last shot and kill Frieza. He wasn't wasting time or anything. Maybe if they had made that scene of him actually beating Frieza to a pulp and caring more about getting revenge, which was pretty justified, honestly, then it would have made way more sense, but it doesn't, because that's not what happens. And then you have the fact that I said before, this just doesn't really feel like a real movie. It's just Frieza's men decide, hey, we should bring back Frieza with the Dragon Balls. So they do. And then he and his men come to Earth with a bunch of this big army. And then the Z Fighters fight the army for a while, and for some reason Piccolo and Gohan are struggling against this random mook. You know, the video game version of this from the Kakarot video game, that brings back the Ginyu Force and Zarbon and Dodoria as part of Frieza's army. Says that they got trained by Frieza in the 4 months' time that he trained, so they got stronger. Why couldn't that have been in the movie? That would have just been a way more interesting detail. But whatever. This movie is bad, and it's the weakest arc in Dragon Ball, but I don't know if I have it in me to call it terrible. Even though I guess you could argue that it is. Next would be the very first arc of Dragon Ball. Now here's the thing. I kind of struggle as to whether or not I should put this in the next spot or keep it here, because I still kind of like the first arc of Dragon Ball. I think it has a lot of charm. The artwork in the manga is really good. There's some funny moments. It just has this nice sense of adventure, but I don't know. I feel like putting it here is just, I feel a bit okay putting it here too, because for as much as I like this arc, it very much feels like this is the first arc. Akira Toriyama didn't plan for the story to go any further. I'm not saying there's no seeds planted here to continue the story, because that's just not true. But what I am saying is that this very much just feels like yeah, here's this cool, fun adventure, the end. I mean, the humor ranges from being pretty funny to, oh my god, why were there no censors in this thing? Because really, I really have to wonder, what are the censorship restrictions for Shonen Jump? I really would be interested in seeing that, because yeesh. And honestly, that's kind of the reasons why this is here. Also, for as much as I love Akira Toriyama's humor, there's definitely funny parts to this. It just doesn't really engage me the way a lot of these other arcs do, so this is just why I decided to put it here. It's not awful or anything. I still think it's decent. I like Goku here. I like Yamcha. I like most of the characters. I like the ending where Goku turns into an Ozaru. It's a nice little way for it to go out. Pilaf and his gang make for some funny villains. Decent arc. I understand why people liked it, but it's pretty clear that it makes sense why the series didn't immediately start off being super popular. Next is an arc that I know is going to be controversial, because I know people love the Moro Saga from Dragon Ball Super. Many people call it the best arc in Super, and to that I'm just thinking, are you kidding me? This is by far the worst Super arc in my opinion. And honestly, I almost considered putting this at the bottom, or at least a spot below where it actually is, because, well, I don't know if I necessarily hate this arc. I mean, I did a whole video about why I don't like it, which wasn't one of my better videos, but the points I made there still stand. I don't know if I really hate this arc, but I don't think any arc in Dragon Ball gets me more frustrated than this one does. I mean, for starters, the Galactic Patrol, which the story focuses around, It's interesting to get to see them focused on, right? Because we've heard murmurings of them before, and we've seen Jocko. Well, apparently they have all these guns that can basically one-shot any character in Dragon Ball Z. But that just ends up raising so many questions, like such as why didn't they try to stop Babidi and Dabra and Boo? Why didn't they do anything to Cell? Frieza? The Saiyans? They just didn't care, I guess. How about the fact that so much of the story is focused on Miras? Miras isn't very interesting. I think he starts off interesting. I think the revelation that he's an angel is cool. I think his death scene is pretty well handled. But at the end, he's actually. We decide to let him live on as immortal. But oh, there are stakes now because he could die. Oh, come on. These days, there are no more stakes. There are barely any stakes in Dragon Ball anymore because anyone can come back to life with the Dragon Balls an infinite amount of times in any way. So, I don't care. I cared about his death scene before because we knew what the stakes were, and that since he's an angel, it's not as simple as just okay, Dragon Balls, you're back. If the angels and the gods say he's dead, he's dead. And also, most of what I cared about is because Goku cared about him. But that's pretty thin. So once he's back, I don't really care. I think Moro, I really ranted about him before, is the worst villain in Dragon Ball, and it's not even close. Worst main villain, anyway. He is probably the most generic Dragon Ball villain ever. It's like they just took Frieza, Cell, and Boo, dumped them into a blender, and said, here's Moro. I mean, let's see. Ancient evil sealed away thousands of years ago with magical powers, just like Majin Buu. Don't even get me started on how his magical powers aren't even magic. I mean, his big attack to suck the energy out of all living things and combine them into a big blast is just the Spirit Bomb. It's never acknowledged, it's literally just the Spirit Bomb. Let's see. He's an evil alien warlord, just like Frieza. He can regenerate and takes on different forms, just like Frieza and Buu and Cell. How about just like Cell? Goku gives him a Senzu beam in what is probably one of Goku's worst moments. The whole Goku almost dies by a random laser in Resurrection F is dumb, but that's not really a fault of Goku's character. But here, when we've had decades of story where Goku is just able to kill this violent, evil alien warlord who has destroyed planets and swallowed billions of souls, he tells him, hey, if you promise to go back to prison and never hurt anyone again, I'll give you this Senzu beam which will completely heal all your injuries. And everyone's telling Goku, hey, are you stupid? Don't do that. Because he is stupid. Yeah, he still does it, and guess what happens next? Moro beats up Goku. And then we get this just really weird final battle where Moro becomes the Earth or something. And then Goku turns into this giant spirit thing, which does look cool, but it's just so weird. I mean, there are positives. I think Vegeta deciding to learn some new techniques from the Yardradians like Goku did way back when, I think that's a cool idea. And honestly, I think if Vegeta would have beaten Moro, that would have been way more satisfying. I'm not one of those people who says that Vegeta should win every time because it's totally unfair that he doesn't or whatever, but I think this would have been a legitimately good opportunity to have him beat the villain in a way that doesn't feel cheap. Because he's the one who really had to work. Sure, Goku had his big training arc of learning more about Ultra Instinct, which I liked, but overall, just seeing him beat Moro again, it only really happens because he's the main character. But what is really the emotional stakes of it? It's Goku beats Moro because Goku good guy, Moro bad guy. Vegeta beating Moro would have been interesting because they actually have some conversations that go beyond, I'm going to beat you up. I really like that Vegeta gets to go to New Namek, which, by the way, another way Moro rips off Frieza. He goes to Namek to collect the Dragon Balls, and there's also this Namekian kid who becomes important. Wow, where have I seen that before? So, Vegeta is confronted by the Namekians, and he feels bad since, he's destroyed one of their villages a long time ago. But the Namekians tell him that they forgive him because that was so long ago and he's clearly tried to do his best to make up for his actions and he saved so many people. He is a hero, even though it's still right and it makes sense why he would feel bad for doing what he did all those years ago. And there's this great scene where Vegeta tells Moro, I'm going to kill you and send you straight to hell. And Moro says, what, you think you're not going there too? And he says, oh, I know I'm going there, but I've made peace with that. That's a really good scene. Again, why couldn't Vegeta have beaten Moro? The ending is just boring. I don't care about this arc. This arc has some good moments here and there, some interesting ideas, but overall it is just frustrating, and it is long. Something like Strem's volume 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. It's the equivalent of about 6 volumes and then half of 2 other volumes, which creates about 7 volumes. That makes this the second longest arc in Dragon Ball, about tied with Buu and Frieza for the second longest. Yeah, not a fan of the Moro saga. But honestly, I think I did a way better job explaining my issues with it here than I did on this dedicated video, so there you go. Don't like the Moro saga. I know some of you are probably going to click off already, but bear with me because the rest of the video will be way more positive. Next arc, Superhero. Like I said before, I've only read the manga version of this. I didn't watch the movie. I really wish I did. Especially would have been awesome to see it in theaters. But I didn't want to see it because of the 3D art style and the incredibly repetitive story. I mean, it said, oh, I just remember watching that first trailer where you have these guys saying, years ago, Son Goku destroyed the Red Ribbon Army, but now we have returned with 2 new androids, and I'm just thinking, yeah, I have. It's not like I haven't seen this already. But reading the manga version and including all the extra stuff that was added on, like the whole prologue story, you know what? I do like Superhero. Maybe I'd like it more on reread because I just kind of wanted to skim through when I did read it because I just wanted to get to the Black Frieza stuff already, which unfortunately still hasn't happened yet. But on its own, I think the superhero story is a good story at the end of the day. Gohan is not the most interesting here despite getting a decent amount of focus. I mean, his whole Beast Gohan transformation is just so dull. Wow, Gohan transforms against Cell. Except this time there's nothing to it. It's just Gohan has a major story, major part of the story, so give him a new transformation. That's cool, but it has no meaning to it. Piccolo getting a transformation also doesn't, but it works for me because one, it looks cool. I mean, it looks cooler than Gohan's anyway, but I don't know. It's because Piccolo's never had a transformation, and Piccolo is really the main character here. It's cool to see him get a lot of focus. And while I am still a bit critical of the whole, look, it's the Red Ribbon Army returned with 2 new androids, I think it is done differently enough to where I can accept what it is instead of what it's clearly inspired by, because I do think it is different enough. The little scenes we get with Goku and Vegeta are fun. Well, I'm still not really a fan of the return of Cell. At least they didn't just bring Cell back, because if you just bring Cell back as he was, not only would that be repetitive, but also you have to do a lot of stuff for that, because he was such a big, important character. So just bringing him back as a big monster, while a bit boring, it does still work. And I enjoyed the stuff with Trunks and Goten in high school that's exclusive to the manga. That was fun. There's some good humor throughout. Back to the scenes with Goku and Vegeta. I like seeing that they're still training with Broly. That's a nice touch of continuity. A good story. And I enjoyed it. Probably enjoyed it more on reread. Not one of my favorites, but still good. Next would be the 21st Tournament arc from the original Dragon Ball. This arc is just where Dragon Ball really gets good. If Peel Off Saga was just, it's fine. This is where it's at. This is just such a fun arc. It's not nearly as high stakes as the other tournament arcs, or as emotional, but it just works so well because it just demonstrates Akira Toriyama at his finest. Able to blend these big epic battles with just this great sense of humor that keeps you engaged page to page, panel to panel. Every fight is memorable. Whether it be Goku facing a dragon, Krillin facing this guy who isn't bathed ever, Master Roshi dressing up as Jackie Chun, where he has this epic battle with Goku, where they have a Kamehameha beam struggle, and then Goku turns into an Ozaru and destroys the tournament grounds. Then Roshi, or Jackie Chun, blows up the moon, which does create some issues later on in the story for me, but which I just want to address that really quickly because it's one of my only complaints with this arc. It's supposed to be impressive later on when Nappa blows up a city, but way earlier in the story I saw a way bigger character who was an old man blow up the moon. I don't think destroying a city is that impressive compared to this. Anyway, though, just really fun arc. The character interactions are all really fun, and I like that Goku doesn't win at the end. Akira Toriyama said he did this so that he could keep doing tournament arcs, because he says, well, Goku didn't win, maybe he'll win the next one. But also it works for Goku and Krillin as well. It works for their characters. Master Roshi, despite never telling them that he was in disguise, did this because he wanted them to learn that there is always someone stronger. You always need to train to push yourself. Because Goku and Krillin just thought they'd gotten as strong as they possibly could have, as strong as anyone could have. Because if Roshi didn't step in, the final match totally would have been Goku and Krillin. And then Goku probably would have won it, and Goku would have just been saying, yeah, I'm the strongest guy in the universe, like he's One Punch Man or something. But no, that didn't happen, and I appreciate that. Also, the actual training part of this arc, which most people kind of avoid, with Goku and Krillin having to deliver milk and plow fields with their hands, that stuff is just really fun and entertaining. It just really shows how much charm and style early Dragon Ball had. Sure, it's definitely not the same as a serious guest later on, but this is still just a really great arc. Good job on you, Toriyama. Good job. Next, I would put the Demon King Piccolo arc. The first villain arc of Dragon Ball. Of course, every arc had a villain or an antagonist before, but this is when the stories become, okay guys, we gotta defeat this big bad villain. And this is definitely a good story. I still really like the King Piccolo saga for the most part, but I can't deny that it has flaws. Okay, to be fair, it only has one flaw to me, really, but one really big one. Let's just get it out of the way. Goku getting this magical power-up from just drinking water? Sure, they say it could kill him, but we all know it's not going to kill him. And that's what gives him the strength to beat Piccolo is so lame. In fact, I want to point something out, which I don't have the visual example of it here, but if you read that chapter, there's a note from Akira Toriyama at the beginning that says, so I was kind of sick when I made this chapter and the next couple, so if some of the decisions made here are a bit lame or some of the artwork is a bit weaker than usual, just blame it on my illness. And I am 99% sure the stupid magic water was a result of Akira Toriyama being sick that week. Because every other time Goku gained power before and afterward, it would be because of his hard work and training. But here he just drinks water. Sure, they say he suffered for hours and hours, but it doesn't really have much of a meaning to it. I mean, there are some other weird moments, like Master Roshi just randomly having knockout gas, but overall, this is still a really good arc. King Piccolo is pretty menacing. The way he takes over the King of the World's castle and has this broadcast to the Earth how he's going to destroy a city every month, and he actually does. And you have Krillin die in the beginning, which really just sets the tone. You evolve Piccolo's minions. You get introduced to the legend that is Yajirobe, who just... It's really funny that when Yajirobe's introduced, he's the strongest guy in the story. But he's really funny. We get the return of Nimbus, or Kinto-un, if you read the manga like me, Goku's Cloud. This is still a really solid arc. I mean, the final battle is really cool, where Goku punches the hole through Piccolo. Let's not kid ourselves. Awesome stuff. Still a really good arc, but clearly Toriyama still needed to refine this kind of story, because this was the first time he ever done it. Still, really good job. Next, let's see what's next. The Goku Black Saga. So, I'm specifically talking about the manga version of this. I have seen comparisons of it to the anime, but I've never watched the anime version of this story arc. And from what I've heard, it's really messy, so... I really like the manga version of the Goku Black Saga. I think it has interesting ideas and executes them pretty well for the most part. Sure, having future Trunks come back is a bit weak, but I think the story that gets told here is quite interesting. Like the way this menacing new villain is built up and revealed to be Goku, and Trunks travels back to the present, or past, or whatever, where he explains how someone has somehow stolen Goku's body or whatever, is impersonating him, and he has all his power. And we get the story of how Goku Black isn't just some bad guy that swapped bodies with Goku or something. He was the apprentice to a Supreme Kai, who really just hated mortals. Like, we see him training with, Kibito and the regular Supreme Kai. And now he's kind of repulsed and just shocked, really, that there are a number of mortals, as Kibito says, who have surpassed the gods these days. Like, Kibito and Supreme Kai, seeing beings like Goku and Vegeta who are way stronger than them, they're used to that. They've seen it for years now. But Zamasu, because in the manga he's called Zamasu and not Zamasu, he just can't possibly fathom this. His master takes him to see a violent planet of mortals and to see how we'll never know what they're like in 1,000 years. So he travels to the future, where yes, they're still fighting each other, but they're still pretty violent, but a bunch of them have formed real cultures, real society. They have improved. But Zamasu doesn't care about that. He just wants to kill those filthy mortals, as he would say. And you have Goku and Vegeta travel into the future to fight him. And how they're talking, and like you have the great fight between Vegeta and Goku Black, where he says that you may have taken Kakarot's body, but that body is a result of years of hard work and training. You don't know how to use its power. We get Goku using, or Vegeta using Super Saiyan God, which is really cool. Goku tries to do a Hakai to Zamasu, which is just really cool. Future Trunks slices Fuse Zamasu in a half. You get the return of Vegirot. And yes, his name is Vegirot. That's what it says in the English translation of the manga. I don't care if even in Japanese he's called Vegito. He's called that because in Japanese it's Kakarot and not Kakaroto. To me, an English speaker, saying Vegito doesn't make any sense, even if that's what he's still called in the anime. Okay? Okay. Other stuff, it's cool. I just like the whole way the mystery is built up of Goku Black and like, who is this guy? And since I'm reading the manga, we get this whole extended scene of Trunks and the Supreme Kai fighting Dabra and Babidi to stop Majin Buu from being released. Like Goku tries to use the Mafuba to stop Zamasu, and then it ends just totally. Okay, I have to say the ending is pretty weak, but like the ending where Zamasu gets cut in half, okay, and then he regenerates to form an army of himself, which is never explain how that works. But then Goku uses his Zenobite to summon Zeno, who wipes out the entire timeline. You know, I feel like it would have been better if maybe after that was done, Goku said, "Hey, Zeno, since I'm gonna give you this whole new friend, being the other Zeno. Why don't you restore Trunks' world so we can have a place to live? Because it ends with future Trunks and I saying, we'll have to go to another timeline. Sure, it'll be weird that it'll be true two Trunks and Mai's, but whatever." That's a really weird way to end it, but still, I do like this saga quite a bit. It's got some cool action scenes, some cool ideas, plenty of good twists and turns. It's a good saga. The Universe 6 Tournament. This is another one that I just really enjoy. Like I said before, I love me a good tournament arc, and this one definitely delivers. What's interesting to me is that the stakes really aren't that high. Because Beerus and Champa aren't putting on this tournament for the fate of their universes or whatever. They just want to see who's better. Sure, the winner will get the Super Dragon Balls, but I doubt Champa was going to use them to wish for the destruction of Universe 7 or something. It's just getting to see Goku and Vegeta and I guess Piccolo and what's the other one? Who's the other member of their team? I don't remember. Oh goodness. Whatever. But, you know, Universe 6 tournament, Universe 7's team getting to fight all these weirdos from Universe 6. I also have to really appreciate the way Dragon Ball tackles the concept of the multiverse here. It's not, oh look, there's another Goku, there's another Vegeta, whoa, which would get really boring really fast. Sure, we have another Frieza, because let's be honest, they just wanted to use Frieza, which is why Frost is here, but I still think enough unique things are done with this kind of concept. I mean, we see another Saiyan in the form of Kaba, who acts much different from Goku and Vegeta, showing that he's from another universe. We get to see this robot guy, Oto Magetta, this guy that looks like Winnie the Pooh for some reason, Botomo. We get to see Hit, who is an awesome character. We get the ending where Monaka, just the wimp Beerus hires, who he tells Goku and Vegeta is actually super strong. Hit feels bad for him and sees what's really going on, so he just pretends to lose to Monaka. Or Goku is this epic battle with Hit, where he has to learn how to go against his time-skipping ability, and he does this massive Kamehameha. It's just really cool stuff. Or the chapter about Vegeta and Kaba. how Vegeta is ashamed that Kaba can't turn into a Super Saiyan. So he beats him up, saying he's a disgrace to the Saiyan race, and tells him he's going to destroy his planet for being so weak, and that triggers Kaba to turn into a Super Saiyan. Rage. This random side character had a better Super Saiyan transformation than Goten and Trunks. How about that? And Vegeta still, defeats him, but says, "Don't you ever forget the pride of a Saiyan." That's a really good character moment. I think Boo not being part of the tournament because he failed a test, just is a good moment there in the anime version where he just falls asleep because it makes sense that Boo is stupid and he wouldn't be able to do a test. Frost is pretty derivative of Frieza, but I still think he's interesting enough. I mean, we get to see him work with Frieza later on, which is cool. And, we get to see Frieza's third form again. That's cool because he only used it for something like 2 chapters, and if you're watching Dragon Ball Z Kai, about half an episode. I like the dynamic between Beerus and Champa. Just really good arc. It's fun. I like it. Next, the Red Ribbon Army Saga. This is just such a fun story because it definitely feels like the stakes are higher than they were before in classic Dragon Ball. But what I think works, and it's also a lot longer than the other arcs, but what I think works about it is that there isn't actually that much tension in the beginning, which one could say is a bad thing, but I think it works in this arc's favor. The Red Ribbon Army is this super powerful crime organization. How is Goku going to beat them? But here's the thing. This is Goku. The Red Ribbon Army guys aren't really a threat to him for a while. There's this one guy, he's big and buff, but he's still a regular human. Goku pounds him. And he makes friends with an android, which is used to set up Dr. Gero years later. Cool. Goku goes into this tower where he fights this guy called Ninja Murasaki, and then he defeats him easily. Or the General Orange guy, or whatever his name was. Things don't really get tension-filled until General Blue shows up, who has this weird psychic powers, and there's a search for pirate treasure, which is fun. We get Goku meeting Karin and Tao Pai Pai, which is just great. I always really liked the chapters with Karin, where it turns out that chasing him all along was the training. Or Goku was to climb Karin Tower. We get some nice character stuff with him where he uses the Dragon Balls to resurrect Upa's father, even though he didn't need to do that. Tao Pai Pai is what I consider to be the first real Dragon Ball villain. Sure, he's not the focus of the arc or anything, but I always really liked him for just feeling like such a threat. A guy who also has crazy powers who can rival Goku, who actually manages to defeat him. He has that weird laser attack and kills a guy with his tongue once, and then Goku defeating him is actually quite a satisfying moment. You get the ending where Goku and Yamcha and Krillin fight Uranai Baba's fighters, and Goku meets his grandpa again. Just really great. I like the Red Ribbon Army Saga. And it is probably one of the most important because it lays the groundwork for 2 of the series' other stories, so good job. Really good job, Toriyama. Next is the Tournament of Power. Oh yeah. Now I've read the manga version of this twice and watched the anime twice. Granted, I've seen the Japanese version in its entirety. Unfortunately, I should have just watched the English version in its entirety, which I've seen most of the English version, but I very much like the Tournament of Power both ways. And I think both versions of the story have their strengths and weaknesses, so ultimately they're equal in my eyes. But the Tournament of Power, I think what works so well is that the stakes really never feel higher than they do here, especially toward the end of the anime version. Because this is literally the fate of the entire multiverse. Now, one could say that a story like that is really hard to write, because it is, but what makes it work is that every universe is given to feel somewhat distinct to each other. And while it's mostly just universes 6, 7, and 11 that feel, distinct because they get the most focus, you still kind of feel the way when each universe gets destroyed. And we have all these crazy, epic, larger-than-life battles. I mean, this is where the animation in the Super Anime really takes it to the next level. Like, the fact that this was on TV is just astonishing. Like, Goku's Ultra Instinct transformation where he absorbs the power of the Spirit Bomb. We get this amazing shot where he walks straight into the camera with his silver eyes. He has his fight with Jiren, where he says, "I know hero justice, but if anyone tries to hurt my friends, they're gonna pay!" And you have him team up with Frieza and Android 17 at the end to knock Jiren off the platform. Just stellar stuff. We have other cool moments like Piccolo and Gohan working together. We've got Kale'Fla. which I definitely prefer the manga version of that fight where Gohan fights Kefla, not Goku, which is just a bit ridiculous. But anyway, just other cool moments like I like Vegeta in this arc. In the anime, he has this nice moment about where he remembers his promise to Kaba and how he motivates Goku at the end, but I like the manga version just as much. It's less characterful, but I think it works well because it really just goes into Vegeta's determination. There's this whole massive half-page panel where he screams, "I will not lose!" Where he yells at Jiren that how dare he not acknowledge his existence, he the Prince of Saiyans. And it doesn't feel egotistical here, because what Vegeta says is true. While Goku and everyone else were on Earth having their play tournaments, as he says, he was fighting hundreds of battles across the cosmos, which is something that we never really think about, but that's true. What was Vegeta doing for all those years? Fighting all sorts of people across the stars, and having it finally be acknowledged is just a nice detail. And can I talk about how Jiren is just a way better character in the manga? Where he actually says things and we learn what his backstory is, but he still retains the same personality of being a mostly silent guy who is super strong and sees himself as being above everyone else. The battles are really cool. I mean, like there are all sorts of cool moments in both the anime and the manga for each character. Like the anime where we get to see Piccolo and remember have like Kami and Nail talk to him in his mind, which is a nice bit of callback. And how this time Gohan is the one stepping in front of an attack instead of it being Piccolo. You got like Master Roshi inspiring Goku, which unleashes his Ultra Instinct transformation. Hit trapping Jiren in a time cage. Toppo turning into a god of destruction or whatever. A Frost manipulating Frieza. 17 of all characters being one of the finalists. There's just so many great moments in the Tournament of Power. Maybe it's not the most absolute epicest, greatest arc ever, but it is still really cool, and I cannot imagine Dragon Ball without this story. Next on to the 22nd tournament. I kind of debated as to whether or not I like this more than the Tournament of Power, but I think I do like this one just a tad more. I mean, it introduces Ten Shinhan and Chaozu, which is pretty cool, and they're really important. At least Ten Shinhan is anyway. I think this arc does a good job of continuing the themes of the previous stories and making things slightly more serious with the introduction of Ten Shinhan being the student of one of Roshi's rivals, but it still retains a lot of the early Dragon Ball humor that I like so much. Like Master Roshi fighting a man-wolf. When the moon goes down, he turns from a wolf into a man, which is just so funny. You've got Krillin beats Chaozu with math of all things, or you have Chaozu with one single strand of hair. And Krillin says, yeah, well, I'd rather be bald than just look like you. You have Goku and Ten Shinhan's awesome fight, where he does his Kiko Ho and Goku only loses because he gets hit by he falls into a car that makes him hit the ground early or something. Jackie Chun still enters the tournament, except he decides to bow out, telling Ten Shinhan that he's really Roshi in disguise, and how he sees that the next generation is in good hands. He doesn't have to worry about Goku and Krillin, because he knows that they are going to continue to push themselves with people like Ten Shinhan around. That's just some really great character stuff. And like I said before, it's fun. Also, I always love the preliminary parts of these early tournament arcs, like where Goku is gonna fight this guy called King Choppa, who's a super revered warrior throughout the world. And then Goku, this like 15-year-old kid or something, just pounds this legendary fighter in a single hit. Or how about or later in the tournament, Goku is told that he has to fight this guy who's won multiple tournaments, and then he defeats him instantly. Goku and Krillin get to fight each other, which is cool. Just great arc. I really like the 22nd tournament. Okay, next is Battle of Gods. I'm talking about the movie version. I do like the manga version, as condensed as it is, unfortunately. It does add some interesting stuff with Champa to set up later arcs. The anime version is too stretched out, but the movie that started Dragon Ball's rebirth is a really good movie. It's just such a fun reunion for the Dragon Ball characters. I can imagine what it must have been like for people to see this in theaters. Really fun, because this really does feel worthy of the return of Dragon Ball. I'm sure it definitely helps that Akira Toriyama came back to write the script, Beerus and Whis are just really fun characters that fit into the world super well. They set up more stories by Beerus mentioning that there are multiple other universes. We have the introduction of Super Saiyan God, which is just awesome. We have just other bits of fun humor throughout, like Beerus saying, Earth, isn't that why I destroyed those dinosaurs or whatever for being rude to me? You have Vegeta's bingo dance. Or the part where Oolong has to play rock, paper, scissors with Beerus. But then just have Goku and Beerus' epic final battle where Goku turns into a Super Saiyan God. And even after he gets knocked out of the form, he screams, I will not let you destroy my world! And he has this epic Super Saiyan transformation where like multiple rocks just start flying around, bursting through everything, and Goku is able to defeat Beerus, not by actually beating him in a fight, because he can't, but Beerus gains Goku's respect. Or Goku gains Beerus' respect. He sees how strong Goku is, how far the Earthlings can push themselves, and he likes their Earth food too. So he decides to spare the Earth. It's just like the part I think where Goku is about to face Beerus' giant death ball, and he says, I may not be able to beat you, but the power of the Super Saiyan God is telling me one thing: I can still get stronger than this. And he does a Kamehameha that manages to knock it away. Great, great stuff. Also, I've only ever seen the extended edition of the movie, the only English version I could find on the totally not the Internet Archive. So the last 15 minutes of this movie are just Beerus and Whis sitting around talking about food, and it's honestly really funny. But also, this arc does set up something that still kind of hasn't been paid off yet, which is Beerus is warned that one day he will have a really strong rival rise up to defeat him. Hopefully we can finally see what that is someday. Next is the Broly movie. I remember when this came out, I was so hyped for it, and I unfortunately couldn't see it because no movie theaters near me played it. But, still, I love the Dragon Ball Super Broly. The original Broly the Legendary Super Saiyan is one of the only classic Z movies I've seen, and I'm not a fan. Yes, I know in the original Japanese version, Broly's backstory is not as weak as he's mad that Goku cried when he was a baby, but he's still a really boring character. So to see a guy who did nothing but scream Kakarot, who still doesn't even speak that much but get turned into a really interesting character, it's just a great revitalization of Broly. I mean, he's canon now, and he's written by Akira Toriyama, which definitely helps. Shows how a different writer, or I mean, in this case, having the original creator of the series come back, can really help reshape an idea that always just seemed bad and turn it into a really good character. Frieza is just in top form here. I think this is Chris Ayer's final performance as Frieza, and he just killed it here, both figuratively and literally. I will never forget the scene where he decides, Broly's not strong enough. So he kills Paragus, and he says, Broly, it's terrible! A stray blast just hit your father! And then Broly turns into a Super Saiyan. And then we don't see it, of course, but it is canonical that something like an hour of time is just spent of Broly beating up Golden Frieza. He says, you cannot defeat the wrath of Golden Frieza, and then he just gets picked up and starts getting smacked around like Broly's the Hulk or something. Goku and Vegeta's fights with Broly are really cool. Like how Vegeta smirks when he feels Broly's first punch and knows, I can win this. And he sees how Broly gets stronger, but then he turns into a Super Saiyan, and Paragus is surprised, because it's nice to remember that, Super Saiyan is supposed to be a legendary form. Most Saiyans have never seen it. So Paragus says, what the heck is that? And Frieza responds with, what, you mean Broly can't turn into a Super Saiyan? And Paragus goes, what, you mean like the legend? But that's just a myth. And then Vegeta turns into a Super Saiyan God for the only time in animation, which is really cool. Goku has an amazing Super Saiyan Blue transformation that is honestly way better than the one in Resurrection F. Gogeta makes his canon debut with this epic transformation scene, and we have this just crazy bombastic music where it screams, Gogeta! As Broly and Gogeta fight each other to the death, and you have that final Kamehameha thing, and aside from all the epic, over-the-top action scenes, which I really wish I could have seen in a movie theater, I think there's still a lot of really good character moments. I mentioned how much I like Broly, but I think just in general, like the way we get introduced to Chilai and Lemmo, who are really good new characters, I think. I hope to see more of them if the Dragon Ball Super manga ever continues, because I like their dynamics with Broly a lot. They don't get that much screen time, but what they do get really does give us reason to care about them. I also think they also do a good job of showing what the Frieza Force is like. Chilai says, I guess Frieza is getting desperate now that he's recruiting women and old men. Like, most of the people in the Frieza Force probably aren't violent savages like Zarbon and Dory or the Ginyu Force. They're just people who don't really have anywhere else to go, so they have to resort to joining Frieza of all people. We get a ton of new lore about the Saiyans, which I always appreciate getting Saiyan lore in the beginning. We get a canonical, I guess we technically saw it in like Dragon Ball Z Kai, but we get a canonical Akira Toriyama version of the time Frieza destroyed Planet Vegeta finally. And I like this version of Bardock, guys. Okay? It's still better than the original Bardock TV special, and it's better than Dragon Ball Minus. This to me is the definitive version of Bardock. Okay, love the Broly movie, great stuff. Next is the 23rd World Tournament, the climactic conclusion of the original Dragon Ball. I love the 23rd World Tournament. This really just feels like Akira Toriyama's had really just reached his peak here, even though he, of course, hadn't, but there's something about this arc has this really specific feel to it. It's the final installment of classic Dragon Ball, and it's the first time in the entire series where we get to see adult Goku. And the way Goku's treated as this legendary warrior, where the characters all have this reunion, we have all these cool fights. I mentioned the preliminaries in the previous arcs where we have Goku fight King Choppa. I like how King Choppa comes back where he says, I lost you before, but I will not lose this time. And he sees Goku just stand there and he says, you call that a stance? You are a disgrace to martial arts. And then he gets beat up easily. We get to see Ten Shinhan fight cyborg version of Tao Pai Pai, which is cool. Nice little way to finish off his character arc by having him defeat the final member of his past. We have Krillin and Piccolo fight each other, which is just so weird, but I love it. I like how even though Piccolo is still a villain at this point, this version of Piccolo is of course far less villainous than the other one. So he says when he beats Krillin, you may not have stood a chance against me, but I still do respect you. And I'm going to say that Goku versus Piccolo is in the top 3 best Dragon Ball fights. No matter how many times I read it, it feels like I'm always surprised by it. Like, you guys all remember Piccolo turning to a giant, right? Well, do you remember when he says to Goku, what, you felt like I couldn't get any bigger, and he grows even larger? Like, there's a part where he swallows the bottle containing Kami's soul. Goku does a Kamehameha with his feet. Goku learns to fly at the end. The whole tournament ground gets completely destroyed, and everyone runs away except for the announcer. So when Goku has his epic finish where he flies in and knocks Piccolo out of the tournament ring, and he says, hey, announcer, I won, right? I knocked him out of the ring. And he says, yeah, I guess you did. That means the winner of the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai is Son Goku. And Goku just jumps into the air as he's finally won a tournament after 3 of them. And he and Chi-Chi fly off because Chi-Chi gets reintroduced here. Just, what a great, great story. It's got everything. Action, humor, suspense. It's full of thrills and surprises. I mean, this is also the arc where Piccolo being an alien is first mentioned because him and Kami speak Namekian to each other. So just really, really solid. 10 out of 10, honestly. Next is the Saiyan Saga. I considered putting this at 3rd place, but I decided it's only going to be 4th place for me. I think the thing I like the most about the Saiyan Saga is not necessarily the story itself, but what it represents, rather. Akira Toriyama was able to take Dragon Ball from a martial arts story with some weird supernatural elements to a intergalactic sci-fi action epic, and it somehow feels completely natural. Just that takes a serious amount of talent and skill that most writers don't have. And Goku being an alien does not contradict literally anything. And despite the fact that this is the second half of the story, it still worked as a great jumping off point for so many people, because most people read or watched Dragon Ball Z first. We have so many cool fights like Goku and Piccolo versus Raditz, the fight with Nappa where he just seems like this invincible wall that just can't be beaten. Like, 3 characters die in the fight with Nappa and he still doesn't lose. You have Goku versus Vegeta, where it's this epic where Goku, no matter how strong he is, he just can't beat Vegeta. He's only defeated because the arc embraces its themes. Vegeta thought of himself as just being this one ultimate guy. He never needed any partners. As soon as Nappa couldn't move or got defeated, he killed him. But Goku was able to work together with Gohan, who gets a great introduction, and Krillin, who are able to work together to defeat the greatest enemy they've ever faced. And yet Vegeta still doesn't die, of course. We get the moment where Goku does his Kaioken times 4 of the epic Kamehameha Gallic Gun beam struggle. Goku convincing Krillin to let him go so we can fight Vegeta again someday. Piccolo's sacrifice to save Gohan. So many good moments here. I love the Saiyan saga. Oh, and we get the introduction of King Kai, so, 10 out of 10. I know this is a bit controversial, but the Granola Saga is my favorite arc of Dragon Ball Super and is third place for me in all of Dragon Ball. I love the Granola Saga from beginning to end. The way it builds the suspense about trying to learn more about Granola's past, the unique villains this time, the killer ending. I made a video on the Granola Saga, but gotta talk about it again here. The character of Granola is so interesting, where we get to see something that's never really been acknowledged before outside of Dragon Ball GT, I guess, but the Saiyans destroy planets, or I guess conquer them, kill a lot of people. What would happen if one of the survivors of one of the planets they conquered was still alive, and he wanted to get revenge on the Saiyans? And I think Granola's whole arc of learning that even if the Saiyans destroyed his homeworld, or I guess destroyed his race, a Saiyan also saved his life, and it's not like all the Saiyans are pure evil, and he's able to work together with them to defeat Gas and the Heaters. And in general, the Heaters are just really interesting villains. Because they aren't your typical big bad guys that you'd see in all of Dragon Ball. They're a crime organization, where their leader is just some evil guy who wants money and power. He uses Gas, the strongest of them all, and the youngest, and the one that just takes orders from everyone. He uses him to become the strongest in the universe, even if it means that the guy is dying, because he cares more about his brother having power than he does about his life. And seeing him and Gas get killed by Black Frieza at the end, just perfect send-off for their characters. I mean, the Black Frieza scene in general is just one of the greatest scenes in all of Dragon Ball, in my opinion. Best villain introduction, anyway. Frieza finally feels like the terrifying threat he always was originally. Sure, he was still portrayed as a big deal in Resurrection F, but he never really felt as terrifying as he does here. Goku and Vegeta get some cool development. Like, Goku finally has to, think about his past for once, because he never really knew anything about his parents, did he? So seeing him learn about Bardock is just a nice touch. I think Bardock's whole flashback, which I didn't really talk about in my video about Granola, I think is a really good stuff. Like how Gas asks him all those years ago, if you know you can't defeat me, then why would you continue to fight me? Is it to avenge Granola's mother? And he says, no, it's not that. Then why? Why would you fight me? He says, I'm a Saiyan. And whether I can win a battle or not, I'm going to fight until I can't fight anymore. And we see how that influenced Goku. He never gives up until he literally can't fight anymore. Bardock's wish to make his Saiyan hopes his sons prosper, I actually like. Because the wish is not confirmed as being, oh, that's the reason Goku was successful. I mean, Bardock wished for both his sons to thrive. I wouldn't exactly say that Goku thrived, or Raditz thrived at all, because, his violent death. I think it just meant that Goku and Raditz would get off of planet Vegeta before it blew up. I mean, Goku was sent off by his parents, but why was Raditz spared? Well, because he was on a mission with Vegeta, who Frieza wanted to be alive, but why would a low-class Saiyan like a Raditz be on a mission with the Prince? I think it was because of Bardock's wish, but that's as far as it stretched. I just think all the battle scenes, like Goku or Vegeta unlocking a new form of his own Ultra Ego to counterpart Goku's Ultra Instinct. If Goku's learning from the angels, Vegeta's learning from the gods of destruction. And then, much like the Saiyan saga, everyone comes together to defeat this impossibly difficult menace. It's just such a great story. And I really hope we get to see where this goes next, because I really want to see that Black Frieza saga, guys. I love the Buu saga. Wait, I guess this is third place, not Granola, but I know it's very controversial to say I like that the Buu saga is a top 3 Dragon Ball, because the Buu saga is not exactly the most well-liked. I wouldn't say it's hated, per se, but it's more like most people would say it has a lot of flaws. I don't know, I love the Buu saga. I just reread it, and I was just totally engaged from beginning to end. I think the whole story arc that we get to see, like the 7 years later flash forward, is used really effectively. Like Goku returning for this tournament where we get to see stuff with Gohan in the beginning about the Great Saiyaman. I think is really funny stuff. Goten and Trunks are great characters. Like I do like Gotenks because remember I do think in the anime, and when I say anime I say Dragon Ball Kai. Gotenks is just a bit annoying because we have to get through the whole scene where he fights Boo in his base form, but that's total filler. In the manga, he says, "I'm gonna go beat Boo easily," and then he comes back a panel later and says that didn't work out so well, and he's completely beat up. I just think the Gotenks fight with Boo is just really fun and entertaining and unique. The Super Saiyan 3 transformation is such an epic moment. The capstone to Vegeta's character arc with Majin Vegeta is so good. Where Vegeta lets Babidi take control of him just so he can have the power to finally fight Goku. And he admits that he really did get to have a soul. He really does care about his family. And ultimately, he sacrifices his life to destroy Boo. Which, of course, doesn't destroy Boo, but it does finally redeem Vegeta as a person. He comes up with the plan for Goku to use the Spirit Bomb to destroy Boo. He says, let the people of Earth save themselves for once. He buys time for Goku to power up, even though he knows he has no chance against Kid Buu. Despite the fact that he doesn't want to do it at all and he hates Goku for lying to him about his true power, he still fuses with him to become Vegeta. We get Gohan. Well, his training arc. Well, I mean, training arc is pretty laughable because he doesn't really do anything other than just sit there. I have to say it was really funny. Like where the Elder Kai always found to be a funny character, or Gohan has to pick up the Zeta Sword, but don't worry, he's just immortal. He's not strong enough to pick it up, and then he does, and then later Goku just picks it up easily and starts swinging it around. But then Gohan accidentally destroys it, and everyone starts freaking out. And Goku says, "Well, you were the one who threw the giant rock at it, right?" The Buu Saga to me is probably the funniest arc of Dragon Ball. Akira Toriyama really leaned into the humor with this one, and I think it works super well because the drama is still good. I think Babidi works as a really good starting villain. He's properly evil and slimy. Dabra makes for a nice threat. I just love the whole story of the Supreme Kai is terrified of Pokus and Yakon, and then Goku and Vegeta just defeat them easily. Boo manages to be funny and also really scary. And the way he's portrayed in the end, where he's just this impossibly hard demon that just can't be beaten until he's finally defeated with the Spirit Bomb, which is a collaboration of not just the Z Fighters, but everyone across the universe, giving their power to Goku to destroy Boo once and for all. That's why I actually like that Goku beats Boo and not Gohan. Because if Gohan beat Boo, it would just be, okay, Gohan, new main character, so we have to beat Boo, but it isn't really Goku who defeats him. Goku just launches the Spirit Bomb, but it's a collaborative effort between everyone in the universe. And we get all these cameos from classic Dragon Ball characters. And you know what? I do like the 10 years later flash forward. It's maybe not the greatest ending or whatever, but I think Goku going off to train a new fighter as he just smiles as he heads off into the sunset. It's a nice ending for Dragon Ball, you know? I love the Buu Saga. I don't care what anyone on the internet says about it. The Cell Saga is awesome. My voice is getting really tired, so I can't really do this for too much longer, so I gotta kind of speed through this, but the Cell Saga to me, I can totally understand if people say this is where Dragon Ball peaked. It is full of so many great twists and turns, so many brilliant character moments. Do we think it's going to be about the androids? But because of editorial meddling, it turns out to be about this guy named Cell. But you can't really see that as editorial meddling because Toriyama just wove these elements of the story together so well. Cell makes for such a compelling villain that's simple yet incredibly terrifying. He pushes everyone to their limits. And he's not after control like Boo or like Frieza or just pure destruction like Boo because he doesn't know anything else. He's just an evil guy who wants people to be terrified, which just makes him probably the scariest Dragon Ball villain. Gohan becomes a Super Saiyan 2 in this epic moment where he finally overpowers Cell and becomes his own hero. Vegeta does this epic final flash. We see future Trunks. We got the androids who are really good characters. And I totally understand why people say this could have been the finale to Dragon Ball. Like, Goku dies and says he's not coming back, but he's proud of his son and is willing to take on the mantle of being the Earth's greatest hero from now on. Vegeta has a pretty nice final moment where he says that he is once again invested by that father and son, being Goku and Gohan, and he decides that he's never going to fight again. But the last time he did fight, he showed that he finally cared about someone else by getting so mad when Trunks died. Of course, I'm glad Dragon Ball continued from there, but this is just a really great saga. Perfection. Yeah, get it? Haha. The Frieza saga, to me, just... I don't think Dragon Ball could ever get as good as this again. There's something about this story arc in particular that just really grips me. I do think the Cell saga, you could argue, is a bit better in most areas, but just once Frieza actually gets introduced, this saga is something else, man. This whole story, Frieza is hyped up, the ultimate villain. No one could possibly defeat him, the Emperor of the Universe, the strongest of all time. And he really is terrifying. In his base form, he destroys Nail. Terrifies Gohan and Krillin, no matter how strong they've got. But hey, Vegeta is actually able to match him. But it turns out Frieza can transform. Piccolo shows up with a power boost from fusing with Nail. He transforms again. And he says, I could destroy you all now, but rather than do that, I'm just going to show you a nightmare more fearsome than death itself. And he turns into his final form where he obliterates Dende, Piccolo, Vegeta. You have this ultimate villain, this unstoppable being of pure evil. But then you have Goku, shown throughout the arc. He fights the Ginyu Force, wins mostly, until he gets his life-threatening injuries from all the body swapping stuff. And throughout it, we have all these murmurings. The murmurings of a legendary Super Saiyan. Vegeta is obsessed with it. The idea that he can be the legendary Super Saiyan and destroy Frieza once and for all. And he thinks it's going to be Goku. But then he sees, nah, it's not going to be Goku, it's totally going to be me. And then Frieza just pummels him. And when Goku finally shows up for the final time, Vegeta does something he never does ever again. He cries. He just begs Goku to defeat Frieza because Frieza must die by a Saiyan's hand. He destroyed the Saiyans even after they served him so faithfully. And then he just needs to be stopped once and for all. And Vegeta dies in what is, in my opinion, the best death scene in all of Dragon Ball. Goku buries him and says to Frieza, in the name of every single Saiyan you have made suffer, for them, and for all the people of planet Namek, I will defeat you! Goku puts in all his effort. He's actually able to put up a good fight against Frieza. Until it once again is shown why Frieza is so terrifying. He really is basically invincible. But after Goku does his big spirit bomb, the day has been won! It hasn't. Krillin dies, and Goku finally becomes the legendary Super Saiyan. I think this arc shows one of Dragon Ball's best qualities, build up and payoff. Both Frieza and the Legend of the Super Saiyan have so much hype, so much excitement baked into them, and when they finally appear, neither of these things disappoint at all. In fact, they probably surpass expectations. Whenever I read the manga, I just imagine Sean Schemmel's voice, and I guess all the other actors too. Imagining the Super Saiyan's dialogue with the voice he had in Dragon Ball Kai, the sheer amount of ferocity he has with his line deliveries, it's just great stuff. To see this monster Frieza finally be put in his place, be defeated by Goku, only for it to turn out that, the planet's gonna explode. And though Goku can't get off, he even gives Frieza a bit of his energy. Says, you can live. I'm gonna let you live. I know you can escape the planet, since you can survive in space without oxygen. Maybe with all this defeat, you'll finally learn the value of a life. But no, Frieza does live up to all the build-up. He really is the ultimate evil villain. He still tries to kill Goku, even after everything. And Goku is forced to put him down. Which of course he doesn't actually die, but whatever. And we get just that amazing panel exclusive to the manga, where Goku doesn't look happy or straightforward that he's finally defeated Frieza. He looks kind of sad. He knew Frieza was evil, but he really hoped that he would finally at least get him to settle down, but He had to learn that some people are just so evil, they're never going to change, no matter how nice you try to be to them. But beyond all that great character stuff and the build up and payoff, the Frieza saga is just amazing. The beginning with the chase for the Namekian Dragon Balls, which is just so suspenseful. You got Vegeta acting on his own, Zarbon and Doria, Gohan and Krillin. You get the fight with the Ginyu Force, the body swapping stuff with Captain Ginyu. Everything about the Frieza saga just works. Best arc of Dragon Ball. Yeah, I love Dragon Ball. Well, I definitely gave a lot of criticisms to some of the earlier arcs on this list, mostly the Moro saga. I still really love Dragon Ball. It is definitely one of the greatest franchises of all time. I really hope that one day we can get a Dragon Ball remake, we can get the return of the Super anime, and we can finally get the return of the Super manga so we can finally see the Black Frieza saga. That's where Dragon Ball should end, in my opinion. I know others have said the same. I know it's been over a year since Akira Toriyama's death, but since I've never really talked about Dragon Ball, at least not to this extent, I feel like I still need to say, rest in peace, Akira Toriyama. You gave us such an amazing story that impacted millions of people across the world. Thanks to everyone else who had a part in Dragon Ball, whether it be Sean Schemmel, Shunsuke Kikuchi, Christopher Sabat, Toyotaro, whoever. Thank you guys for Dragon Ball. That's all for now, and remember to stay way past cool.